Hello everyone, welcome to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be using a for loop to solve a FizzBuzz problem. Basically, it's a very simplistic and infinite problems where you take a number from 1 to 50. If the number is multiple of 3, you print fizz. If a number is multiple of 5, you print buzz. But the trick was, if it was multiple of both, we'll be printing FizzBuzz. If all those conditions are false, we would just print out the number. So here we go. For this program, we don't need any input, but we will be taking advantage of using a for loop by using a range. So I'm just going to quickly explain what a range does. So if I just had a range, let's say a value of x, that's going to generate all the numbers from including 0 all the way up to x, but not including the x. Okay, so therefore, let's say if we have a range of 10, this is going to give us 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's not going to include the 10, right? And range can also take in like different set of arguments. So if it only took 1, it's going to generate from 0 to that number. If it took 2, if we're going to call it a and b, it's going to generate the numbers from a and all the way up to b, but not including. So in this case, if we wrote, let's say from 5 to 10, this is only going to generate from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's going to generate these 5 numbers like so. And lastly, we have range of a, b, and a, interval value. All right. This is really cool. It's going to go from a to b, and it's going to not include b, but it will have interval. Let's call this step. We'll have step based intervals. So to give you a little example, we could say that range from 10 to 0, if we're going to go to a -1, well, this allows us to go backwards. So we can go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's not going to include the 0. Another example use case of this is following. If we were to do range of, let's say, we're going to go 1 to 10, but we're going to go up by 2. So this can also help us do 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 9 plus 2 is 11, which goes beyond our final endpoint. So that's just going to have a set like that. So it's a really nice function to use, and this is really nice because what range does is range is a generator function that creates iterable integers in a given parameter. Right, so we get to give 3 types of parameters if we really wanted to, and it's what we call a generator function that helps us create iterable integers. So if we have iterable integers that's quickly created by this function called range, it's really easy for us to create set of numbers right into our system memory, and then we get to run a for loop to iterate over them. Okay. So just and foremost, we're going to just say for. I need to create a variable now. Whenever you use a for loop in Python, you need to create a variable that is going to represent each individual item that we are looking through by using a for loop. So in this case, I'm using a for. And then I'm going to say that number comes from, and we're going to be looping in a something. So we're going to use the in there, and we're going to say for num, this iterating variable, that's going to be inside. Well, for us, it's going to be the range function from 1 to 51. I'm going to include 50 here, and so therefore I just increase that final endpoint by 1. And if I were to show you print num, if I run this code, that it's going to output all the numbers from 1 to 50. Right, in the first iteration on my first loop, num is going to be represented as 1. So it prints it and it goes back. Num becomes 2 because this is a variable that's going to, in order, represent each individual items in your iterator, which is our collection of objects that we have. In this case, our iterator was the result of our range function. It generated all the numbers from 1 to 51, not including 51. So num is going to be first 1, then look at represent number 2 in our generated range, and so on until it gets to 50 inclusively, and it gets to exit the loop. So we call for loops a finite loop. And in other languages, other programming languages, this could be called a for each loop. Okay. And for loops are most commonly used to look through values in iterable object. Okay. And that is its main use. Okay, so most often it is used for this way. It actually does this better than a while loop, more efficiently, to be honest. Therefore, for loops will be used when we are dealing with an iterable object. And here we just decided to create an iterable object. We do because we need to analyze the numbers from 1 to 50. Okay, so I'm just going to now start writing our conditions. Here it says here it has to be a multiple of both, so we're just going to write that if num modulus 3 is equal to 0 and num modulus 5 is equal to 0. We're going to take advantage of the fact that we're going to use the AND operator here, saying that the left operand and the right operand has to be both evaluating to true. Then we're going to print the FizzBuzz. Okay, and then we can write an elif. We need conditions. If it's just multiple of 3, then just multiple of 5. So let's write that down. If it's just multiple of 3, we can write fizz. And elif, we can say num modulus of 5 is equal to 0. We get to print out buzz. Okay, and if all this fails, we just want to output the number. So in this case, we can just write a nice little clean if statement here, pointing else. Okay, this only occurs if all of these 3 conditions are false, and we get to print out the number. I like to do say end of if here, just write the comment end of for, just to know that I've exited these indentations of my code block and so on. So if I was coding stuff here, I have exited my if conditions, but I'm still within my for loop. And if I start coding here, I've exited the for loops code block and I'm starting a new code block as well. So let's turn those, erase those and run our program. At this point, I can run vid15 like so. It will have fire first multiple of one of the 3 or 5. So we have fizz, we have buzz fizz, and here when we get to 15, it is a both multiple of 5 and 3. So we get a fizz buzz, and it goes all the way until 50. 50 being buzz because it is a multiple of 5. So this is a nice little example of how you can use a for loop and the range function to help you analyze numbers starting from one point to another. And as always, thank you for watching.